Hi guys, David Jennings here from podcastinterviews.com, and today we're excited because I've lined up an interview with one of the guys behind Flippa. Flippa.com at the moment, for those of you who haven't heard, is pretty much all the rage. Everybody's getting into buying and selling web businesses, and it represents a fantastic opportunity. And we've got Luke Moulton here. Thanks for coming.
How are you, David?
Excellent, excellent. And we want to pretty much just delve into what are some of the best practices for buying and selling websites. So if you guys want to take advantage of this opportunity, you know how to best start. So maybe if we just dive straight into it.
Sure, let's go.
Straight into the meat. Perhaps, I suppose there's two sides to this coin. There's buying and then there's selling of domain names.
So, essentially Flippa is a marketplace, and it's an auction style marketplace, so similar to eBay where we have buyers and sellers. So we essentially provide a marketplace where buyers and sellers can come together and buy and sell websites and domains.
Yeah. Now on let's say maybe even we start with the buying side of things. Sure. Perhaps you can take us through the, I suppose, best practice. Let's say someone's wanting to get started, they want to buy a domain name, it's their first time. What are some of the things that they should look out for when doing the right due diligence? So
we always try to stress, certainly to buyers, that they do their due diligence, and there's a lot of things that you can do to make sure that you're getting essentially good value for money, and that you're buying an established business. I mean, if you want to be buying an established business with revenue, then treat it like buying a business. You know, do your due diligence, check revenue. A couple of things that I always do when I'm looking at sites in the marketplace. First thing I do is actually run it through a tool called SEMrush. SEMrush is essentially, it checks on what sort of keywords the domain's ranking for that you're interested in, and it can actually show, I think it's up to 10 of the keywords that it's ranking for. So you can always cross-check those with whatever the seller information the seller has actually provided on the auction. So that's a bit of due diligence. Always try to get analytics, particularly Google Analytics. People do list AW Stats, which is another stats package, but analytics is certainly probably the more reliable stats to be looking at. A couple of other things are actually ask for access to Google Analytics,
as in their login details.
As in, you know, and this is if you're seriously buying, spending thousands of dollars buying an online business. You know, you might not go to this depth if you're only spending a couple of $100s on buying a lower end site, which obviously there's plenty of on Flippa as well. You know, sites will start from usually around the $100, $200 and go up from there. But you know, if you're seriously spending a fair bit of coin, do as much due diligence as you can. A couple of other things you should do, and you, David, being an SEO guy, would know that you should check backlink profile. SEO Moz has a great tool called Open Site Explorer. And you can have a look at what sort of backlinks are pointing to a domain. So, you know, does it have, you know, high page rank sites linking back? Does it have a good spread of links? You know, some of these SEO guys, they have their own network, and sometimes they control all the links. So that's something you've got to watch out for.
When I suppose you're doing this due diligence, the main thing obviously you don't want to get duped, and I think that was one of the good things about Flippa, especially with building up these profiles and having trust rank and different things like that. So I suppose there's less chance of getting duped if you're going for a seller who's proven themselves a few times before.
Yeah, definitely.
Well, I'm curious to know if you're finding there's many situations, I don't know if people come crying to Flippa if something doesn't quite go right, or like, is that a concern? Like, should people take what the person's saying in their listing at face value and say...
No, not necessarily. Look, unfortunately we're not in a position to be manually checking every single auction, and which is why we stress that you need to do your due diligence, and don't always take the seller's information for granted. So yeah, try to do your background checks. Look at what other comments people have left the seller. You know, and that can be difficult. Like, we've had recently quite a high profile site sold on Flippa, and it was by a very trustworthy man, and it sold for about $90,000.
Yeah.
Well, he doesn't sell those every day, so, and he hasn't sold on Flippa before. So It can sometimes be as simple as actually finding out the seller's real name and doing a background check. Google them. See what's on their Facebook account, or find out if they've got a LinkedIn account. And particularly if you're spending a lot of money, you want to make sure that the seller's fair income. So do a background check.
I think the other thing that comes to mind as well, when you're actually figuring out the valuation, and this really is the $1 million question, and Ed Dale's come out with a course recently to help people value websites. In a traditional sense, when you buy a business, you buy it based on how much earnings has it had, and you might do a multiple of that earnings for a couple of years or something like that. When it comes to online, it's still a very new industry, and people are finding their feet. How do you determine what represents good value for you personally? I don't know if you buy and sell websites, but
look, I certainly have at the lower end. I like to try and experience what our audience is experiencing. It's a really tough question. How do you value a website? And there's a lot of factors. If a site has revenue and profit, there's a general rule of thumb, and it's a very, very loose one. You're usually looking at an index of 10 per month. So take what the site is earning per month, multiply that by 10, and that'll give you a very, very rough indication of the value of the site. There'll be plenty of high-end investors out there that wouldn't agree with me, and that's why I say it's a very loose rule of thumb. But certainly at the sub 5k mark, even sub 2k mark, I certainly look at page rank, traffic. They're really two of the main ones. Particularly if a site isn't showing much revenue, if someone's saying it's earning $20 a month through AdSense, then focus on the traffic, and also obviously make sure you do your due diligence to make sure it is actually getting the traffic that the seller says it is, because traffic is something that you can monetize, and that's where I guess the speculative aspect of buying and selling sites comes in. One other important thing on traffic is to actually check where that traffic's coming from.
Not paid sources that turn the light switch off on.
Exactly. And if you've got someone who's selling a site and they're getting 5,000 visitors per month, but 4,000 of those are coming via pay-per-click, and they're spending a couple of grand to get those visitors, then the warning lights should come on.
Yeah.